The Chess Oscar was an annual award given to the best chess player of the year. It was started in 1967 by the Spanish journalist Jorge Puig. In this video, we will take a look at the lives and the games of all the players who have ever won the Chess Oscar starting from 1967, which is when the award was started. But before we do that, let's take a moment to look at the Chess Oscar trophy itself, and also I'll give you one last moment to admire my short hair, because in a minute you'll see that it's much bigger than this. The Chess Oscar trophy took the form of the Lady of the Umbrella, a figure based on a statue in Parc de la Ciutadella in Barcelona in Spain. Later, it took the form of a man in a boat. It represented a figure known as the Fascinated Wanderer and refers to a story written in 1873 by Nikolai Leskov. The first winner of the Chess Oscar in the year 1967 was Bent Larsen.
Jeg er udpræget nattemenneske. Jeg sover normalt fra klokken 4 til klokken 12, og det ved jeg ikke. Det om natten, der er normalt så dejligt roligt.
You can find that entire interview linked in the description down below, and any footage I use in this video will of course be found in the description, so you can view it whenever you feel like. Now, Bent Larsen was is the strongest Danish player ever. He was the first Western player to actually pose a problem to the Soviets' dominance over chess, and he is regarded as the strongest player from Scandinavia until Magnus Carlsen came about. He was an extremely creative player, and from this game, Bent Larsen versus Tigran Petrosian, I'm going to teach you a life lesson. You see, Bent Larsen was married to Laura Beatrice Benedini, and he loved his wife a lot. And he has one queen in his life, which is his wife, and he has one queen on the chessboard. And you see, he was a very loyal person, and he said that I don't need two queens in my life. So he could have filed for divorce, but instead he sacrificed his queen in this beautiful game. And Petrosian did not take it, because if he takes the queen, bishop e6, he has to block with the rook, which is kind of what happens in the game eventually. But if king h8, rook h3, bishop h6 takes, you're threatening to take the rook on f8 with checkmate. And if you move the rook to the side, this is checkmate. So you go rook f7, but now bishop f7 and bishop f8 is kind of winning. In the game, Petrosian did not immediately take this queen, but first went knight f4, because as you saw, f takes and there's bishop takes e6. So Petrosian says, okay, I kind of have to take your queen because my position is terrible otherwise. Like, you just take my knight, go rook g3, checkmate me. So he plays knight to f4. And if Larsen makes a mistake and takes with the bishop, then after this, he'd rather have his rook attacking the rook instead of his bishop blocking the way. So in this position, Larsen correctly takes with the rook, and after f takes g6, bishop e6, again king h8, rook h4 wins, rook f7, he takes. Now there are a gazillion discovered checks threatened. Petrosian moves the king, and now Larsen finds a brilliant way to win this game. Rook g5, and the idea is simple. Rook g3, rook h3, it's game over. If Petrosian tried bishop h6, then bishop d4, king g8, rook takes g6, and in the game he tried b5, which does nothing, rook g3, and he resigned. He resigned simply because, well, firstly, Larsen has a rook and a bishop for the queen, and he's going to go check here, and then after the king comes here, he'll win a gazillion pieces, probably even checkmate, I suspect, with rook f6 eventually. So it's completely lost for Petrosian, and he decided to resign. So yeah, you can learn a life lesson from a game of Bent Larsen. There you go, you're welcome. Boris Spassky won the Chess Oscar in 1968 and in 1969.
Это легко давались. Стал Владимир Григорьевич Зак моим первым наставником. Я считаю, что он был... У меня был, к сожалению, классический русский недостаток. Это лень и авось.
Boris Spassky is one of the greatest players to have ever played chess. He was the world chess champion from 1969 all the way to 1972. Sadly, a lot of people remember him as the guy who lost to Bobby Fischer. But that couldn't be further from the truth. He is one of the greatest players to have ever played chess. In this game, he is playing the 1967 winner of the chess Oscar, Bent Larsen, and he's playing black, and he's in this position where you're like, okay, black has a bit more space. White is solid though, yeah, solid. And Spassky says, well, I can play knight f6, but this is what cowards do. He says, I'm gonna play h4. I don't need the knight, and Larsen happily takes it. H takes g3, and if you take on h8, takes back on h8, gf5, rook h1 check. This is the point. So again, this bishop, you can't take the bishop, but if you don't take the bishop, if you move the king, for example, just a random move, you still end up getting into deep trouble. So once you take the bishop, we go rook h1, bishop f1, and g2, completely winning the game. So Larsen says, hold on a second, Spassky, hold on a second. I just played rook g1. I mean, what do you do? I'm gonna take this next. I mean, what are you gonna do? And Spassky says, wait, you hold on. I've got something up my sleeve. Rook h1. Spassky sacrifices the rook, and you have to take it. If you go king f1, then you take on g1, king g1, and queen h4. And now, I mean, it's force mate eventually. So king moves and then queen h1 checkmate. So Larsen had to take this rook on h1, and now Spassky went g2. Again, if you play rook g1, then queen h4, blah blah blah, queen h1 leads to a completely winning position. Instead, Larsen tries to go rook f1, saying, please take my rook, Spassky. And Spassky says, no thank you, queen h4 check, king d1. If rook f2, then you just queen, king d1, and now he takes. And the point is that after bishop takes, now he just needs to take on g4, and after bishop e2, obviously it's mate in 1, but Larsen resigned, and Spassky won probably his best game ever. Bobby Fischer won the chess Oscar from 1970 all the way to 1972.
Chess is no good, and it hasn't been a good game objectively for 150 years, since all this theory developed. It was a good game maybe 200 years ago.
What can I say about Bobby Fischer that you don't already know? Fischer was a genius, but he was also extremely eccentric, and he single-handedly took down an entire Soviet chess empire by becoming world chess champion in 1972. This is one of my favorite Bobby Fischer combinations. He's playing white in this position, and he starts to think, and he thinks, okay, I have a lovely move, queen h6, threatening mate, queen f8 defending, and now he sees this beautiful idea, queen h7, king h7, h takes g6, and well, if king g8, rook h8 is mate. But what about king 8, king takes g6? And Fischer thinks for a second, and he's like, this is not winning for me. I don't have a checkmate. And he just imagines that, wait a second, but if this bishop could deliver a check on e4, this would be checkmate. And with this in mind, Bobby Fischer plays bishop to g2. And you know, his opponent was like, wait, I can take this pawn. And now I start to push these pawns up the board, and I win. And he's probably so happy. And then Fischer goes queen h6, queen f8, and his opponent resigned after this because of what we just saw. King takes, pawn takes, king takes, bishop e4 is now checkmate. What a deep idea, just bringing the bishop back to g2 in this position. Truly brilliant. Anatoly Karpov won the chess Oscar from 1973 till 1977, and as you can see, his trophy is based on the Lady of the Umbrella, of which we spoke about earlier.
No, I played always a lot, but not too much. I had norm around 80 games a year, but I played, of course, much more than any other world champions, and probably because I accumulated a lot of energy and preparation was very serious, which I made for Fischer, and then I could play with almost without preparation any tournament with any list of the players.
An interesting fact about Anatoly Karpov is that he still loves to collect chess stamps. He was world #1 for a total of 102 months and was world champion from 1975 to 1985, the official world champion, and was FIDE world champion from 1993 to 1999 when he resigned his title in protest against FIDE's new world championship rules. Many players, many chess enthusiasts as well consider Karpov to be, if not the greatest, one of the greatest world champions of all time. And he demonstrates why in this beautiful game against Viktor Korchnoi. In this position, Karpov has well-placed pieces, but how does he win the game? He plays g5, and he notes that this knight is the only defender of the h7 square, which he has a beautiful battery against. So black cannot move the knight, and he has to take the pawn. And he takes the pawn, and now Karpov plays rook d5. What a brilliant idea. The knight can't move because of h7. And the queen is hanging and the rook is hanging, so you have to play rook takes d5. And now Karpov plays knight takes d5. And let's take a moment here, because you cannot take back, but knight e7 is a threat, so you have to play rook e8 defending. And now Karpov is like, this knight can't move, this queen has nothing productive, this bishop can't do anything productive, this rook can't move, the king can only go to h8, which is again useless. So Karpov just improves his position, brings another piece into the attack, knight e to f4, and he's got a great position, but he's a pawn down. Korchnoi plays bishop c6, and Karpov starts to think. He says, I can take, king f8, queen h8, king e7, and wait, I'm not winning because the king ran away. I mean, I don't have an attack. And so Karpov keeps this in mind, and he plays e5. And the idea is that if d takes e5, knight f6 takes. And now remember that this didn't work, yes? But Karpov's idea is that he goes knight h5 in this position. And if you're wondering why that does not work earlier, why can't he do this and immediately go for the move knight h5, is because the queen is covering this square. So he won't be able to do that. Instead, which is exactly why, Karpov sees all this, he blocks the queen's support of the h5 square, and if Korchnoi took the pawn, now he does all this, and now he goes knight h5, threatening mate, forcing you to take rook g1, king h8, and if Karpov is feeling lucky, he won't deliver checkmate, he can try rook g1. Oops, rook g1 runs into checkmate, sorry, rook g7 So he's got to deliver queen g7 checkmate immediately. Which is why Korchnoi says, okay, I can't take the pawn, but I can take this knight. Karpov takes, queen h7, king f8, but note the difference that now after queen h8, king e7, because the e file has opened up, you have rook e1, and this is now a great position, completely winning for Anatoly Karpov. In this position, not in this position, in this position, black resigned the game. Viktor Korchnoi won the chess Oscar in the year 1978.
Elo points, by the way, it is not only indication of strength or chess strength, it is indication of amount of energy.
In this game, Viktor Korchnoi beautifully demonstrates why he's regarded as probably the strongest player who never became world champion. He's playing a very strong grandmaster, FM Geller, and he just sacrifices an exchange like it means nothing. Takes, the queen is under attack, so queen d8, but now we see the point of his sacrifice. He plays knight d5, and what's the point? Well, let's say you play a stupid move, yeah? Everything gets taken on f6, but because of the spin, yeah, this is a big deal. And we have two bishops versus rook, so you kind of want to take this bishop, and if you take with the queen, then takes. And because of the spin, you are completely lost with black. So instead, you have to move the knight. But if you move the knight, then there's rook takes g7, because the bishop supports it. So FM plays knight e8, defending g7, and now we have queen g3, simply building up pressure, preparing bishop takes g7 and bishop f6, which would be, by the way, checkmate. And if let's say, I don't know, g6, queen e5, knight takes e7 is coming, and queen h8 is checkmate as well. So f6 was played to block this bishop and to survive. Bishop c4, bringing a second piece, another piece into the attack, and this is completely crushing. Let's say black does something stupid, I don't know, maybe a6, if I start to improvise, okay, yep, beautiful. Knight g6 takes queen h4 as checkmate as well. And a stunning way in which Korchnoi could have won. But he's playing a strong grandmaster. I apologize if there's some background noise. And FM plays rook f7, blocking the diagonal ASAP. Knight f4, getting out of the way of the bishop. He's going to win the exchange back. His pieces are just better. And he is completely winning. By the way, if you take this, I would think that this would be pretty similar to what happens in the game eventually. For example, now I have knight e6 in this case, but this wins nonetheless. Bishop d6 was played in the game, pinning up this knight. Bishop takes f7, king f7, queen b3 check, king e7, and now he finishes off in style with bishop f6. How does this win? I'll be honest, I did not check, but I can check now. If you take on f6, then this is a quick checkmate. And if you take with the knight, then if I go check, simply king f8. So I have to go rook g7 first. King f8, queen f7 is checkmate. Beautiful combination by Viktor Korchnoi. The chess Oscar of 1979 was won by Anatoly Karpov, and he also bagged the Oscars of 1980 and 1981. 1982 and 1983 Oscars were won by Karpov's biggest rival, Garry Kasparov.
In most of the stories I looked at, and in most of the quotes I collected, I didn't see people picking up intuition as the crucial element of the success. While in my profession in chess, intuition is virtually everything.
Garry Kasparov, probably the greatest world champion ever. I mean, his opponents were just scared when they were sitting opposite him. He was such a force over the board. His opening preparation was always way above his opposition. His understanding of the game was just superb, and his attacking chess was just brilliant. In this game, played between Kasparov and Joël Lothier, I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite Garry Kasparov combinations. If you look at the position, his queen is hanging. And what does he do? He plays knight... Oh, come on. I can't believe that just happened. Anyways, he plays knight g4, not caring that his queen is hanging, but goes ahead and hangs his knight. Brilliant. Two pieces are hanging. What do you do? Well, first of all, let's look at what happened. Basically, in this position, black resigned, right? He just resigned in this position. But if Joël takes the queen, Kasparov takes the queen back. And what's his point? Let's say you take the rook. Rook d8 check, knight g8, and knight takes f7. Beautiful checkmate. So you can't take this rook. Okay. What if you just put the rook back, stopping the rook d8 check? Well, then there is knight takes f7 checkmate. Okay, what if I take on g2? Then the same thing happens all over again. What if I take on e5? Just take your knight off the board. Then rook takes g5, and white is up an entire exchange, which is why nothing works in this position. You cannot take Kasparov's queen, and if you can't take Kasparov's queen, then your queen on e5 is simply hanging in this position. And let's say you take the knight off the board, then queen e5, rook e5, rook e5, completely winning. White's up an exchange. And let us say you decide to move your queen, then queen f6, and if rook g7, queen takes g7, he's completely winning. And this is by far, I mean, he's played many great combinations. Kasparov versus Topalov 1999 is one of my favorite chess games, but this combination made such an impression on me. Brilliant chess by one of the greatest, if not the greatest, world champion, Garry Kasparov. The 1984 Oscars were once again won by Anatoly Karpov, but from 1985 all the way till 1988, Garry Kasparov was the winner of the chess Oscar. From 1989 all the way till 1994, the chess Oscar was stopped, and so there were no winners for these years. But when the awards resumed in 1995, Garry Kasparov won it, and he also won it in 1996. In 1997 and 1998, we had a brand new winner, Vishwanathan Anand.
I think people confuse knowledge and proficiency at the chessboard. So you can win a game, but it doesn't mean you understood everything that happened very well. I mean, if you keep analyzing something, you will find that there are many things that you missed, but maybe your opponent missed a lot of stuff as well, and that compensated, you won the game. So there are people who are ridiculously good at playing chess, but it doesn't mean that they know everything about the game.
Vishwanathan Anand is the pride of Indian chess. He is a 5-time world champion and has also received the second highest Indian civilian award, the Padma Vibhushan, one of the greatest world champions and one of the greatest chess players ever. Vishwanathan Anand has he's impacted an entire generation in India. Now in this position, he's playing black against Vasily Ivanchuk, and probably your first reaction is take this knight with the bishop, preserve the pawn structure, but Anand says, no, I'm gonna damage my pawn structure. What a weird choice, but everything makes sense very soon. Takes on d2, of course, you have to take the queen back. Ivanchuk is not a beginner who would miss that there's a queen on d2, which needs to be taken. And Anand goes h5. Rook g1, defending the pawn, because otherwise, I mean, we just take, and bishop takes g4. And if you go h3, this is important. You can't play h3 here because the bishop takes g4 and your rook hangs over there. So in this position, Ivanchuk defends the pawn with rook g1. Anand takes, and this is such a deep moment. Anand looks at the position and he goes, right, I have one good bishop in the position and one bad bishop. But he also says, oops, I want to get rid of the arrows. But Anand also realizes that this pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. And if white can play h3, suddenly his position with these two pawns is not that bad. So he knows that this is his good bishop. He knows very well. He's a world champion, for God's sake. He knows this is his good bishop. And he plays bishop c4. And he wants to exchange these bishops. The point is that if you trade the bishops, now white can't play h3 because black plays c3. And now there's some trouble on the queen side. And all of this, giving up your good bishop, is all because you want to stop h3. And if white plays h3, then suddenly his position is probably okay. In the game, obviously, Ivanchuk did not take the bishop immediately. He realized that probably taking it is not so good. He started with b3, and now Anand traded the bishops. And now, as I said, it's all about stopping h2, h3. And he plays rook h3. And now these two pawns are weak forever. This was always weak. Now this is always weak as well. Anand, the game ended 22 moves later. Really beautiful game. You can study it yourself, but I just wanted to show you this moment where Anand shows such a good understanding of chess to give up your good bishop when you leave yourself with a bad bishop, all because you want to stop a move like h3, which seems harmless. You can check the entire game out. This was the final position where Ivanchuk was forced to resign. Beautiful game, and what a great player. The 1999 Oscar was once again given to Garry Kasparov, but in 2000 we had again a new winner, Vladimir Kramnik.
But the best one, let's say the most talented, prominent kids were going to Kasparov-Botvinnik school. And I was pretty much surprised to receive an invitation when I was 12 to the school, because I was still a provincial boy, talented, but I think I've never yet was away out of the region, Krasnodar region, where I was born.
Vladimir Kramnik, one of the players who has impacted my chess he's impacted my chess in so many ways. I have a database of games I've studied, and his name features there like 50 times. He is such an instructive player to learn from, and his position, the way he plays chess seems so effortless. It makes it look like chess is a very easy game, and he is such a good chess player, former world champion, one of the greatest players to have ever lived, and one of the players who's impacted my chess the most. This is one of his very famous games against Luke McShane. And if I'm being honest with you, there are so many brilliant moments in this game, but I'm just going to show you a few. in this position, Kramnik just sacrifices his rook. What for? Does he have an attack? No, but what does he have? Good pieces. What does black not have? Black has a terrible pawn structure, and what does black not have? Good pieces. Apart from the knight on d4, which is also a bit iffy after e3, he doesn't have such great pieces. And now, in the game, again, there's a ton of analysis here, but I'm just going to show you the game. Knight b5. Kramnik comes up with such a beautiful way to just improve his position. He plays queen b1, and the idea is to put the queen on f5, where everything is perfect for white. Queen d4 was played, and again, now if Kramnik goes queen g4, oops, my bad, queen d4, rook d1. If Luke McShane goes queen g4, then it doesn't help because you still win with g4. It's still a great position for Kramnik. Queen c5 was therefore played, and again, Kramnik can probably come to f5, but then again, knight d4 is there. So Kramnik pays attention to this little detail and plays e3 first, stopping knight d4. And now finally he puts the queen on f5. And if I could fast forward a few moves, because this is such a brilliant game, I could go on forever and ever about all the subtle nuances here. But in this position, Kramnik played knight e3, and he eventually sacrificed the exchange and beautifully went on to checkmate Luke McShane. Oh, I guess Luke McShane resigned. But I will just quickly show you, in this position, Kramnik obviously found one way to win, which is completely fine, and he won in beautiful fashion. Another beautiful way to win is what the computer suggests, which is the move b4, guys. Give the pawn up and then give the exchange up. Kramnik eventually gives the exchange up, but this is quicker, with the point that now you have queen takes c7 and white's completely winning. So yeah, this is a beautiful game by Kramnik. I will of course link this game in the description. You can check it out whenever you feel like. And yeah, that is the game, Kramnik McShane. Once again, from 2001 to 2002, the winner of the chess Oscar was Garry Kasparov. Vishy Anand won the award from 2003 to 2004, but in 2005 we had a brand new winner, Veselin Topalov.
Resurgence. Aggressive.
Aggressive.
Dangerous.
Never stands up during the game.
Original.
Veselin Topalov is one of the most creative players ever. I have studied a few of his games and I have been completely left speechless. This is one of his most famous games against Garry Kasparov from 1996, I believe. And this night, I'll just give you a brief summary of its journey. It's gone from knight g1 to f3 to d4. And now, Topalov plays what I believe was opening preparation. He plays a very nice move, knight c6, with the point that you can't take it because of queen c6, queen c7 attacking the knight, bishop d5, defending it because again, pawn takes, bishop takes wins. And here, Kasparov plays a5, slightly inaccurate, but I think it's very hard to punish. And the idea of this move is to go rook a6 and to take it, because when you get the bishop and the knight, that is two pieces for a rook. So this was Kasparov's idea. But here, Veselin Topalov with a stunning move, bishop g5, completely ignoring Kasparov's threat. And the point is that now after rook a6, he wants to put his knight on d8. So the knight has gone from here to here to here to here, and it's only move 17. f6, defending the f7 pawn, knight f7, rook g8, and here, I mean, it's when I was studying the game for the first time, I thought the knight takes e5 wins, because after takes, bishop g8, f g5, f6, and I was like, boom, f7 is coming, maybe f takes g7. It looks very strong, but simply rook f6, and there's nothing here. Anyways, Topalov played the move bishop e3, getting his bishop out of the way, and here g6 was played. And here again, Topalov finds the most accurate move, knight g5. And his point is that if f g5, then simply f6. And now f7, and this position is completely winning. For example, you come here. Why does my phone keep making these notification sounds when I'm recording? Anyways, rook h8, f7, king d8, and queen f6 should pick up the rook in the end. So Kasparov simply moves his rook, and after fg6, rook g6, bishop f7, queen f7, knight f7. Let's take a moment here. The knight went from here to here to here to here to here to here, and then all the way, then back to the f7 square. It's only move 23. What a beautiful combination from Veselin Topalov. And in the end, he's left a queen up in a completely winning position. Beautiful game. You can check the entire game in the description. I'll link it. And that is Veselin Topalov for you. In 2006, the award was again won by Vladimir Kramnik. From 2007 till 2008, the award was won by Vishy Anand again. From 2009 all the way to 2013, the winner of the chess Oscar was the current world champion, Magnus Carlsen.
Keeping that in mind, I would say my favorite player from the past is probably myself, like 3-4 years ago.
You know everything about him. He's the current world champion, the most dominant player of his generation, and probably the best player of this decade by far. I mean, he has many beautiful games, but in this video I have chosen to show you the move after which he played this move, and the very next moment he became world chess champion, because after playing this move, his opponent Sergei Karyakin in the World Championship of 2016 resigned the game. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you this move. This move is a little puzzle for you. Not too hard. It's not his best move ever, but it's nonetheless a very pretty one. Take this as a quick puzzle. Drop your answers in the comments down below, and that will be your solution to Magnus Carlsen, which move made him world champion. Since 2013, the chess Oscars have not been given out, and so we don't have any winners from 2013 till the present day. However, you guys can drop comments down below and tell me who you think would have won the chess Oscar all these years. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.